right, here we are again at Shelters by Jesus podcast. I'm Senior Pastor Richard Berry, and if you want to know more about what we do, you go to sheltersbyjesus.com, and for $9 a month, you can take somebody off the street, and all you got to do is hit the button. The other thing is, by watching this, if you're subscribing and hitting like, we're making money for the homeless. Right now, we're up almost 3,000 subscribers, and we're excited about that. And so you can help us by sharing this with your friends and family in your church or others, and just say, go on and subscribe for this and hit like, and we get some money. Also, I have 4 books. They're written by the dumb hick from Skowhegan, me. And they are written in Hickanese, how I talk. You won't get confused with John Grisham or Stephen King or anything. But we'd like to put them in your hands. I got 4 of them. The 5th one's coming out. And we have 2 prices. They're $10 or free. And we want to minister. And they're full of the miracles, the battles, how we run our shelter 100% faith-based. And we've never taken a penny of a grant or anything now for almost 15 years. They said it couldn't be done. But 15 years later, Jesus is still doing it. So we're very thankful. And also, if you want a tour, we're at 12 McClellan Street in Skowhegan. We got 23 kids running around there. You can see we have a men's shelter. We got families living in my church. That's the family shelter. It's my church building. We have people sleeping in my sanctuary. Come and check them out. And we have a big food pantry. If you see my other podcasts, you'll see all about us. If you haven't seen them, you want to check them out. They're pretty cool. And you call 207-474-8833 and say, I would like a tour. Or if you want my books, put your address on there, your name and address on here. Or call the office and say, I'd like Pastor Berry's books. And whichever ones you want, we will mail them right out to you. So we're excited. And what we're trying to do now is we're not just at Shelters. I'm not at Shelters by Jesus today. I'm back on the road. And as I said, we now have podcasts. We'll travel. I'm the traveling mouth that goes with the podcast. And we shine a light on different ministries right now. We're excited. I'm excited. I'm at a ministry here in Newburgh, Maine. It's a half a blink off the interstate. If you go by fast, you'll never find them. What's the address? It's called Bread of Life Community Church. And we're at, what's your address, Pastor?
Right there.
Yeah, all right. Here we are. We're at 363 Lindsay Road in Newburgh, Maine. If you want to, when we're done here, you go, I'd like to talk to that pastor and talk about the food because they run the food pantry and tell me about it. His number is 207-341-0262. 0262. And without further ado, I want to introduce you to the pastor here. And I get my friend Pastor Steve Newt, also with us, who was a friend of his. It got me in here. And Pastor, your name is?
Pastor Ben Herbist.
Ben Herbist.
Yes, sir.
And so you are the pastor of Bread of Life Community Church, and you have a food pantry. How did this all come about, Pastor?
Well, try not to take time all day.
Well, you take whatever time. It's my podcast, and they're watching. If they get tired of this, they'll go to the bathroom, come back, and pick it up again. Don't worry about it. Go ahead, brother.
All right. 2017, I took over as senior pastor of what was a Newburgh Full Gospel Church Ministries.
Okay.
And at that point, I took over pastor of a building. There was not a congregation meeting. I think it had been shut down for about 5 months.
So you didn't take over a church, you took over a building.
Yeah. And so I took over the organization, and I just was in prayer, even right down to the name change. And God just kept ordering the steps from there. Mm-hmm. And at that point, the food pantry wasn't here yet either. I hadn't had a chance to meet the prior pastor or anybody that was serving in the community. I just knew that there was a food pantry somewhere, and it had been here at the building at one point.
Okay.
And the prior ownership had, it was just they wanted to go in a different direction. So what ended up happening is the food pantry was then serving out of storage units here in Newburgh.
Oh, okay.
And they were doing a drive-through. And when I had heard that, after I took over as senior pastor, I connected with Pastor Brent Trueworthy, who was at that time helping oversee with Rachel Lindsay.
Okay.
And I said, there's no need for the food pantry to be running out of a storage unit when we got the garage right here.
That's awesome.
I had some big dreams of maybe doing a thrift shop out of that garage, and I saw that there was a need right now. So I said, all right, let's get the food pantry back here.
So you brought the vision, instead of down the road, you brought it to today.
Back to where it was,
Right,
because
correct.
it was here, and then they had moved out.
This is the original location.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you feed quite a few people out here. I was told during COVID you fed a ton of people.
Yeah, during COVID and even pre-pandemic, we were up to about 60 or 70 families a week.
Praise God, man.
Yeah, they were lined up down the street. And when we had brought the food pantry back to the location, they had been operating the best that they could. And so what they would do is they would bring pallets of food out and put it in the driveway.
Right.
And people would just come in and just pick, and you'd end up with a mess.
So you had a big chaotic situation.
Oh, yeah. So being prior military, I came in, I said, we need to put some order in this.
Oh, boot camp's coming.
Boot camp.
I've been there.
So
I've been there, man. Boot camp is coming.
Yeah, I took
Chief.
over and we started doing the drive-through.
Okay.
And then so...
Now, you say a drive-through. How did that operate? How was a drive-through?
So what we did was an in and out in our U-shaped driveway, and we would serve the people, bring the food right to their car. We would have a pre-made box, and we'd load it in, and they would go.
Kind of like the old days in the 50s, and they used to put on roller skates and come up to your window and serve you on the car. Yeah, but that's cool, bro.
Yeah, and so it got really effective. That's when we were up around 70, 80 families a week.
Wow.
And it was lined up down the street. And then that's when I realized, okay, this is getting effective. We're serving a lot of people, but we're missing the whole ministry point. I'm not getting to know Mrs. Smith with her grandchildren or her family or the family in need.
So it was impersonal.
It was impersonal. So I said, we need to get it back in the church. And
Cool.
and that's when we got it back into the church. And I started implementing a cafe, a hot meal at that time. And that's when the COVID hit.
Okay.
And then
Steve was telling me during COVID you fed hot meals here.
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. And about that time, during all that transition, is when I met brother Rob Thew and his wife Valerie Thew.
Okay.
And their family. And he came in. He was an attendee of the church for a little while. And I said, "Where does God want to use you?" And I believe that before people are used, I want them to know they're loved.
Yeah.
I don't want ever in the back of their mind thinking that the only reason why Pastor Ben has me around is because he needs me to do something.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like that, man. I like that.
I have them sit in the ministry for a while, and then I find their gifts and their callings. And Rob has a real heart for people, and he has a real heart for serving others, and he's an old farm boy from Dixmont. So I said, all right, God, put all those together. What do you got? You got someone who's going to run a great food pantry. And he's run it, and ever since him and his wife took over, that food pantry has blossomed. We've had donations out of the woodwork. Dixmont town office has donated money, in the thousands, just because they see what we're doing. We serve the region.
Dixmont people can make their way over here.
Absolutely, we serve like Dixmont, Newburgh, Etna. People come from Bangor. And we don't turn them away because, if you're in need, you're in
So
need.
your requirement for food is the same as we have in Shelters by Jesus. Are you hungry?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we have people call up because a lot of places, a lot of the pantries, very well, a lot of them are federally funded.
Yes.
And you have to meet an income requirement.
Yeah.
And they have to show proof of income. Well, one thing, when we hooked up with a Good Shepherd, and we don't buy from the Shepherd, we get it from Hannaford and Walmart and those places. But anyway, when the food comes in, that's why we don't ask anything. We told the Good Shepherd, we're not going to ask anything.
Right.
And they said, they have to go to your church to eat. I said, why would they have to go to my church to eat? They're hungry. And they go, well, we like that. So we got contracts to do with that. Amen. So when people call, we get people calling, they'll go, what's the requirement that I come get food there? I said, show up.
Right.
And they go, I said, you're hungry. How many people are going to cheat to get a loaf of bread?
Right.
For a lot of people, it's out on their pride to even come.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know that.
You're showing up with, I don't care, there might be someone that shows up with a 2020 brand new vehicle, but they're going to make a payment.
At the end,
it's a payment or food.
that's right, and that's what people don't understand.
Yeah.
And they'll go, well, they live in a nice home. Well, they probably got a payment that scares you to death.
Right.
And now they got to pay that mortgage. They still got to eat. Well, don't you just give the poor people? No.
Yeah.
We're all poor
You
people.
know,
Yeah, we're all in need.
If you're hungry, you're hungry.
Right.
You know, I mean, for me to go, I've never been to a food pantry. I've never gotten anything. But if I was going to do that, I'd have to be at the state where my pride, I'd had to swallow it big time. That's how I was, very prideful about that, because that's how I was raised.
Right.
You know, I'd gone hungry before I'd asked for anything.
Right.
And so if somebody calls me up asking for food, first thing goes through my mind is they really need food, or they ain't going to call me and ask for bread or whatever we happen to have, unless they need you. So when they come in here to see you, there's a need.
Right.
And you're here to meet that particular need. And it don't matter. You don't check their wallet and their checkbook and all of that before you give them something to eat.
Yeah.
You know, he has the same attitude about church as we do. Church is one body. We meet in different places. He won't brag on it, but I will. During the pandemic.
Well, go ahead and brag on it.
I will.
That's why you're here.
Hey, listen,
I didn't bring you here just to sit and watch.
It'd be pretty.
Yeah.
Right? But he got in touch and said, do you have any people in your house that are in their house because of the pandemic and can't get out? I said, yes. And there's 4 or 5 families every Friday got food boxes from these guys. Rob would bring it by and deliver it. I got to tell you something else. Rob pulled into one yard and the guy was really sick. And he had a tattered old American flag on his tree.
Yeah.
And his wife called me up in tears. She said, that young man came and put a brand new flag and flagpole in our yard. You know, did you know about that? Yeah, it's just amazing. Awesome. But it's beyond that. And we have Trudy. You know Trudy at our church.
I know Trudy.
Well, she has some special needs for her.
Yeah, so her husband has to have certain food.
Yeah, and this woman out here finds out what do you need, and every week she gets exactly what she needs. God. That takes extra time and work. Yeah, you know. But.
Well, and as you're watching this, I hope you understand that there's such a need out there. It's astronomical, and this is not a great, big, huge church. What's your membership here?
Well, given Sunday,
how many people show up? Not membership. How many?
Yeah, no, around 20 or 30 people on Sunday.
You got a church of 20 or 30.
Yep.
Steve's got a small one, right? And they're doing some mighty stuff. You don't have to have a mega church to do mega stuff.
Right.
Because you got a mega God.
Amen.
All right? You got a mega... I mean, my church is made up 90% of homeless. Yeah. So you imagine if I was living on the offering plate going around, all right? Yeah. They'd be taking out, not putting in, because they got nothing to put in. All right?
Making change.
So we actually, so bad, we stopped passing the plate because there's so many homeless. They were just... Yeah. And I felt bad because you go by them, I'm going, we ain't going to do that no more. So Brian Demers made a little church thing, and we put that back. And so non-residents, we go by residents and non-residents. I know that sounds foolish, but we have people living there when they're the residents, and then the non-residents come and they said, how do you pay? Because I didn't see an offering plate. I said, not gonna. Well, I got money. Did I just give it to you? I said, no, that's what that little wooden church is by the door. Yep. Oh, so the non-residents now come in, they'll drop their money in the little church. They don't wait for an offering plate. And I told them, I said, we have homeless here. I'm not going to pass a plate in front of them.
Make them feel guilty.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That ain't what the Lord's all about.
No.
Okay?
Give with a joyful heart.
Yeah, and they want to put in. If they had something to put in, they would.
Right.
But they're there because they don't. And so we don't have big numbers. You know, people come into my service, they go, wow, your seats are full. What? You got a good-sized church. They live there. All right? So my church is actually smaller if you want to go non-residents than your church. Yeah. But, we're feeding thousands of people, and you guys are doing some mighty work. And the food is coming not because you're rich, not because your church is rich.
Nope.
All right? So if you're watching this, you're going, I'd like to do something in my area. How about just ask the Lord to open your eyes to something and start with whatever you got. Amen. Sometimes they start with a bag of sandwiches and take them like, Trudy has to have special food, but people like Trudy that are off, that can't get out, or, the husbands are sick or whatever, or old vets. Yep. And if you can take a bag of sandwiches in and say, here, that means a lot. And what you guys are doing, we're going to, this is going to be a double podcast. We're going to do another minute. We're going to do a podcast. We're going to go out and see all the stuff and probably meet some people. But I just want to make that point is some of the biggest stuff I'm seeing taking place is coming from the smallest churches. And that's the truth. Yeah. Some of our biggest supporters come out of the smallest churches.
That's good.
Another thing they're trying to do here, little plug, is build a community playground, a safe community playground.
Oh, cool.
Can somebody donate to that?
Absolutely. If you find us online or Pastor Barry shared the address, you can send a check to Bread of Life Community Church and write in the memo playground. Or you can pop in on a Friday or a Sunday and drop off a check there. Just make sure it's written to Bread of Life Community Church with a memo of playground, or make sure that we know that it's going towards the playground.
Absolutely.
Also, you have weekly meals here, right?
Yes.
When do you feed?
We serve a hot meal during food pantry hours every week on Friday, so 11 to about 1:30. 12:30. Food pantry ends about 1 o'clock, so we're done serving the meal about 12:30. And then once a month on a Thursday night, the third Thursday of the month before service. So that's from 5:30 to 6:15. We serve a hot meal.
What does that cost people?
Nothing.
Yeah.
They
So if
show
you're
up
in the
hungry.
Newburgh area,
Yeah,
stop in. And if you're in the Newburgh area on a Sunday, what time's your service?
10:30.
10:30. Stop into the Bread of Life Community Church.
Yes,
Is that what
sir.
it's called? Bread of Life Community Church in Newburgh. We're winding this session down. I can see my cameraman's giving me the finger back there. Actually, giving me 2 fingers. We make sure there's at least 2 fingers when he puts his hand down. So yeah, swing in and check out what they're doing. Come to a service. Especially if you just moved in the area, go, where's a church in the area that I could go to?
Yeah.
Hey, go to where they're serving Jesus, man.
Amen.
Yeah.
Go to
That's
where
right.
they're serving Jesus. And I don't know what your denomination is.
Christian.
Steve mentioned
Christian, yeah.
about denomination. People ask me what we are. Now we're Shelters by Jesus. We used to be E3. We didn't leave it because we don't like the E3. We left because we want everybody to know we're non-denominational. Because I go to Pentecostal, Nazarene, you name it. I've been to them all, and everywhere I go, they ask me ahead of time, "Oh, what's your theology?" I said, before we get into that, let's just say this: Do you love the Lord with all your heart, soul, mind? Love your neighbors yourself? He said, yes. Do you care about the homeless? Yes. Then we got nothing else to talk about. That's why, because when I come and speak, that's where I'm staying.
Right.
I'm staying right there.
Amen.
And I've had Pentecostals. So if you're a Pentecostal watching this, I was down in Florida, and the guy said, I've never had a speaker that I never met, but one of my guys, I was speaking at a radio station in Jamestown. I was in Tennessee, Jamestown, Tennessee. Actually, it wasn't Florida. That was Jamestown, Tennessee. And he said, the music pastor set this up, and this has never happened before. So he said, can we meet ahead of time? I said, I want to meet you. So we again sat down, and he goes, are you Pentecostal? I said, I'm not. Well, we are. I said, that's good. And he says, so when you get out there, you're going to hear tongues and all kinds of stuff. And I said, listen, let me tell you this. No matter what you do, I'm not going to dishonor your pulpit. All right? Yeah. So when I got up there, the first thing I said was, let's take care of the white elephant in the room. I said, I know you all want to know how I stand speaking in tongues. So I was standing beside the pastor, and he was speaking in tongues and praying and all of that, what was going on. I said, I've never traveled and spoke without my tongue. And I said, if you can agree with me on that, everybody busted out laughing. I said, look, I'm about the homeless. Amen. I'm not here to discuss charismatic, Calvinism, nothing. Because when people come to my door, they don't care about none of that. You know what they want to know? Have you got a sandwich?
Yeah.
Have you got a sandwich? And we have people coming to Jesus in droves because of that. And we don't worry about that. And when they leave, we tell them, look, find a church that loves Jesus.
Let the Holy Spirit take you.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Just go up. Yeah. So anyway, we're finishing this session. Thank you so much for being with us today here we're at Newburgh, and we're going to do another one in a minute. And I hope when these don't all come up at the same time. So when it comes up, you want to check it out. First of all, I want to thank Pastor Ben for allowing me to come in and do this, and Pastor Steve for hooking me up with Pastor Ben and being a part of this. And I'd love to have you, if you're looking for a church, seriously, check this place out. Yeah. And if you're in our area, come visit us. We're at 12 McCullough Street in Skowhegan. And we'd love to see you. If you want a tour, you'll know all about that. And please keep watching. And we're going to keep these things going. We're having a ball. So all I got to say now is y'all come back now here.